Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. I'm Cheryl White, and I'm delighted to be your lead co-host for today. And with me today are my fabulous co-hosts, Dr. Loretta Howard and Dr. Andre Howard.
Thank you.
Yes, wonderful having you both with me.
Thank you.
And today's topic is finding funding. So making a way sometimes out of no way. And with us to have this fabulous conversation is Wendy McKinney. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Wendy is a mission-driven executive, a former chief development officer, an author and co-pastor, and we're going to have her share a little bit about herself in a moment. We always like to start the show with one of our audience questions, and we are just delighted and thankful when you send those in. And we kind of have a theme going here. So this question is similar to another question, yet I think it's still on people's minds. So we selected it to share response to today as well. So, Dr. Dre, I'm going to toss it to you first, and then Dr. Loretta, and then feel free, Wendy, to chime in as well if you'd like to respond to one of today's audience questions as well. So, the question is, how do you keep staff focused and morale up when funding is questionable? Dr. Dre, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Another great question from our audience. I think, this is the time to really think innovatively, a little bit different. I think this is a good time to kind of think counterintuitively in terms of investing in your people. Certainly uncertain times kind of requires that investment in staff development, not less, right? So I think this is a wonderful time to offer skill building opportunities, cross training, stretch assignments as part of that process. The other thought that came to mind here too is something we have often done, I've often done in the past, is this contingency planning, kind of like scenario planning. Well,
Mhm.
what would we do if funding decreases? What if, funding doesn't come back? What kind of opportunities should we be looking at? I think this gives folks within the organization an opportunity to participate, to give input, and not to feel so helpless, right? That this uncertainty can create. So, the scenario planning, kind of thinking in the future. How do we pivot? How do we think differently? Given perhaps a reality that a lot of nonprofit organizations are facing in terms of that. So I would just offer those thoughts in terms of answering that question.
Thank you, Dr. Dre. How about yourself, Dr. Loretta?
I agree with everything Dr. Dre said. What I would actually add to that is, of course, the communication and being open and honest with people about what's going on. Tell them as much as you possibly can tell them. And in some cases, because people are feeling anxious about things, letting them know where there are potential resources that they might be able to go to, or if they need to talk to someone for counseling or things like that. But coming back to our mission and purpose as well, why we're in that business originally. But that open communication and the honesty, I think that's going to be crucial at a time like that.
Wonderful. Thank you. And how about yourself, Wendy? What might you add? Any thoughts?
Well, those are great responses. And that covers a lot of things that I wanted to say. The only thing that I would add is this is a great opportunity to create an environment for your staff to showcase their knowledge and their experience. So create an environment where you take their ideas. They're out on the front line. They're speaking and exposed to people that we may not, as leaders, be exposed to. So give them an opportunity to share their ideas, to brainstorm and actually implement them. And that will give you buy-in, and they will be a little more intentional about their commitment.
Absolutely.
Right.
Love
Right.
all of those responses from acknowledging the uncertainty. I think we've heard that thread with regards to the reinforcing our purpose and commit and purpose and mission as we've kind of gone through exploring this topic and similar questions in the past. Love the emphasis on empowering and the involvement, Dr. Dre, as relates to the scenario planning and Wendy thinking about, how might we engage them in sharing their gifts and ideas and really investing in, I think to your point, Dr. Dre, sometimes during moments like that, we tend to not do professional development, and that may be the time
Right.
to actually engage. And Dr. Loretta, finding those, helping people figure out what might they personally do should it come to something as tragic as a riff. What are some
Mhm.
options that they might have available? I think any and all of those things. And I think modeling resilience might be another thing, and optimism, because sometimes, although we want to be transparent and say, yes, we are concerned, we also don't want the stress to become the dominant narrative, but to really be able to still set the tone and stay calm and focused and hopeful. So thank you so much for sending in the.
That's a tough one though, Dr. White, to stay resilient. That is so tough in these kinds of times. It's
Mm-hmm.
you can't help but show your weakness and your your fear and all of that. I think that's a reality, but I like that balance in terms of trying
Mm-hmm.
to connect again to purpose and mission as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if it's showing weakness as much as just showing the human side
yeah.
of what we're dealing with as well. So,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, good thoughts. And again, thank you so much for sending in those questions. We have always been open to and want you to just send not only in questions, but topics that you maybe have as interest. I think you might see above each of us the email that you might use, but for those who might be listening and not seeing, I'll tell you that email address is Leadership Matters questions, no spaces, at innovisions, INNOVISIONS.org. So we look forward to hearing more from you. So before we jump, I guess, both feet into today's topic, again, Wendy, we want to welcome you to the table. And
Thank you. Thank
uh, yeah, and so that our listening audience gets a little bit of perspective as to who you are, we'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself, your connection to this topic, as well as your own leadership journey.
So I'm currently a nonprofit consultant, specializing in fundraising and professional development, leadership development, and community engagement. And before that, I was chief development officer of few San Diego nonprofits. And before that, I was a financial advisor, investing money, and now showing the folks how to take that money and use it for mission. So that's been my journey over the last 5 years as a consultant. And fundraising is something that I love so much. I'm so excited to talk about it. I can talk about it all day and all night, nonstop. I've been fundraising since I was about 8 years old. So I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Mhm. Great. Thank you so much, Wendy. Hey, Dr. Loretta, you can jump in.
Okay. Yeah, okay, great. That was a wonderful answer. Been fundraising since you were 8 years old. I know there's some stories behind that too.
Right.
But thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate it, and looking forward to hearing from your wealth of knowledge. So, with that said, how would you describe the funding environment for the U.S. public and nonprofit world today?
Really, one word, challenging.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's a challenging time. And it's a little bit scary for traditional fundraisers. But on the other side of that, because I'm a natural optimist, is that this is the time, as we spoke earlier, to be super creative. There's more ways to skin a cat if you have family from the South. So this is the time to step in and to use some of those other vehicles or creative ideas that we've kind of put on the back shelf. But it is a challenging time, and fundraisers and organizations are facing questions and options that they haven't, or opposition that they haven't faced before.
Mm,
Thank you.
mhm.
And kind of on top of that particular question, Wendy, and again, it's great to see you as well. Anything else you might add about funding challenges facing today's leaders in the nonprofit sector? I mean, in terms of, do we think this is going to be long term? Is it short term? Is there a new day coming for nonprofits as we think about the challenges they're facing? Should we be pivoting to look at something different? Should we be shutting down? I mean, what else might you add to some of those thoughts in terms of thinking about today's leaders in our sector?
So that was a loaded question.
Yes, it was.
I think that this is going to be long term. I think that with our current administration, we know that's several years.
Mhm.
And we don't know because of the incredible shift that's coming about with this environment. It's changing a lot of things in a lot of industries for our future. It's changing mindsets. It's changing our economic outlook. It's changing our social impact. It's changing, and we're also changing leadership in terms of age groups.
Mhm.
There's the millennials, and there's the Gen Zs, and then the alphas who are coming up very quickly, who will become our leaders, who think very differently than we do. So those are organizations are even going to have to change the way they hire employees, who they hire, how they train them, how that, people work at home now. They're not at the water cooler. You don't get to see them. You don't even know if they're working. So, there's a whole new attitude. I have a son who's he's a Gen Z, and he works from an app. He decides when he's going to work,
Mhm.
and he works and he makes some money, and then he shuts his apps down, and then he goes to San Francisco for a week with his girlfriend. So
Wow.
this is a new day. This is a new day, but it's also the same thing as the great wealth transfers taking place. And we're not really talking about that a lot, but we really need to focus. I was a former financial advisor, so I try to stay close to that industry. So there's over 100 billion with a B
Mhm.
dollars transferring over the next 2 decades
Wow.
that will be in the hands of millennials and Gen Zs, because that's who the money's going to be gifted to, right?
Yes.
So that money is going to be invested or donated differently than today because of the minds of these Gen Zs and these alphas and the millennials. They don't think exactly like the baby boomers or Gen X's. There's a whole different thought process. They're more caring. They're more committed to sensitive causes, things that we may have not considered. So there's a big shift that's going to be a long-term shift. But we currently, you're right, you use the word pivot. We have to pivot. Every single day, we need to be considering what is the current state of affairs. We need to plan with indicators. We need to plan for the week. We need to plan for the month. We need to plan for the year. We need strategic planning processes put in for 5 to 10 years. We have no idea how things are going to be shifting, but we must plan. And the most effective way to handle fundraising and to have a victorious outcome in your organization is to plan, as I know the three of you do a lot of. So yes, that's my response to that.
Great. Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, lots to even unpack there. I'm wondering what are some of those vehicles through which that money is transferring to those millennials, and then I'm also wondering, can I dye my hair and be one of them?
Yeah.
No,
Believe it or not,
but
they believe in a lot of sustainability and environmental
Mhm.
causes
Yes.
okay.
related to animals
Yep.
and things like that, where we otherwise would not think like that. So it's going to take some education and some strategy.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so I'm gonna have to double click on that just a little bit more when we come back from break, with regards to the vehicles through which that wealth transfer is happening. And then when we also come back, I want to have you share a little bit about, for organizations that have traditionally relied on government grant funding, what might they do to survive and thrive and, I should say, hopefully thrive in today's environment. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. I'm Cheryl White and delighted to have my co-host with us today, Dr. Andre Howard and Dr. Loretta Howard. I am pleased to be your lead host for this particular episode. And we have Wendy McKinney on today. And Wendy is just a fabulous mission-driven executive. She's a former chief development officer as well as author of fabulous book, Busy Doing What? As well as a co-pastor. So Wendy, before we went to break, you were talking about wealth transfer that's happening today. I just want to have you double click on that and see a little bit more.
Yes, Dr. Andre was asking about, what does the future look like? And is this long term? Is this short term? Well, there are a lot of things that are happening and that are going to be happening in the future. So I think it's a long term perspective that we need to have in long term planning, along with short term planning, but not selling short on the long-term planning, because with this wealth transfer of over $100 billion taking place, we're going to see a shift in the way that donations are given and the way that folks are contributing. We're talking about millennials and Gen Zs who have a different mindset. And I use my son as an example because he's a very active. Well, I have a Gen Z and I have a millennial, and they are really heavily involved in cryptocurrency, in digital currency. And some of us, myself, I don't know about you all, I play around with it a little bit, but they are really committed to it and committed to using it to purchase land, to purchase investments, to live off of in terms of earnings, and to buy everything with it. So that's a whole new mindset for this big wealth transfer. It's like, where's that money going to go? Is it going to go to our traditional nonprofits? Is it going to go to our religious organizations? Because that's another shift. They're shifting away from contributing to religious organizations as they did before, even healthcare, even arts and culture. So things are shifting in terms of their mindset. We really need to take a deep dive study of the generational differences, because that's how money is spent. That's how decisions are made. That's how social impact is affected. So those are things I think that we need to keep in mind.
Okay, well, thank you, Wendy. As we continue to think about organizations that have traditionally relied on government grant funding, what do you say to them with regards to how they survive now and hopefully how that might shift in a way that allows them to thrive in today's environment?
And is that a question for me?
Yes.
Again, the answer that I posed earlier, which was the environment is a challenged environment for organizations. There's no doubt about it. There are organizations who don't know if they will be funded next week. There are organizations who lost funding since the beginning of the year who don't see another way out of funding opportunities because they've been funding or providing funding or fundraising the same way for decades, even over a century. And so to make that shift is very scary for some leaders, but they're going to have to make the shift. And when you think about, and we'll talk about some of the ideas and some of the other vehicles, it's not impossible, but you will have to shift and change the mindset and change your strategy on how you fundraise, and even some of your programming, even the way you address some of your social impact, and your mission might need adjusting, because we have to adjust with the changing environment of the world, of the economy, of the government. So it's not over for government entities. I was doing some research, and there's over $1.1 trillion of funding that comes from the government, whether it's state, local, federal, over $1 trillion. But what people don't look at is there's over $500 billion that come from donors, with 60% of that being individuals, over 60% individual donors. They're not going away. These donors there's a lot of money available to be a contributor to these nonprofits, but there has to be a shift. There's a long learning curve for relationship building, but it's possible. There's fee for service opportunities, which we can talk about a little bit more. There's loans and investing with financial advisors financial advisors have the hold of all the money that's being invested. Nonprofits and organizations need to partner greater with these financial advisors and use that money more creatively and strategically to fund the operations. The money's there, the money's in motion. And we know that if there's no money, there's no mission. So we got to get in motion.
Right.
I just came up with that.
Well, I'm going to say the Lord will make a way. No, Dr. Loretta.
That was great. I was taking down notes as you were talking. And one of the things I really like to hear a little bit more about is when you talked about the fee for service, because I think sometimes nonprofits don't think about that. And then maybe some other creative options that you would think they should maybe be using to acquire funds.
How much time do we have? Well, I love this question because it's caused fundraisers to really dig down deep and get creative, right? Some people are afraid of it, but we're going to have to do it. We're going to be forced to do it. And the great thing is, I'm a believer in there's no new thing under the sun. Some things, of course, with technology, but then there are things that have happened already where there's successes, and we need to look at our neighbor and next door. And one of the nonprofits boards that I serve on is Goodwill San Diego. And that's an organization that I love so much because they use and have used a fee for service model since the beginning.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, I love to come to the meetings because there's not really talk about, oh my God, we're running out of money. We have an endowment, we have investment funds, and we have multiple fee for service opportunities. The thrift store, people donate to Goodwill without even thinking about it. They build a brand. And I'm telling you, there's millions of dollars raised from people donating their goods. And the great mission that people don't understand about Goodwill is that 50%, more than 50%, right here in San Diego, of the employees who are actually, we call them ambassadors, they are individuals with disabilities. And that is the goal and the mission of Goodwill, is to hire and offer opportunities for individuals that have barriers to entry in employment. So they use this fee for service model, and they don't have to even raise money traditionally with grants and things like that. They don't even do that. We've been talking about it recently, and I probably shouldn't say too much about that, but the recent discovery is that, you know what, that's a lot of energy and a lot of potential for having to hire an entirely new staff and to change really the structure of the organization. So let's just keep it how it is, do some friend raising, and continue to do what they do best, which is fee for service with traditional goods. The other thing is, organizations, even like the Neighborhood House Association, other organizations that have specialization in certain areas, they can use that as a fee for service opportunity, like consulting. There was a young lady I just talked to the other day. She wrote a book on being an administrative assistant. She's been an administrative assistant for about 30 years. And she is amazing because she's got tools and tips and things like that. So that's something that through her organization, they can do a master class. They can do online classes. They can create a certification. They can create a multi-million-dollar model just by this expertise for her and her administrative skills. Or another example is, organizations just in general, we can go on and on, have areas of specialization. For example, there's another one, I can't think of the name of it, but they started a catering business because they did cooking classes and things like that. So they took their participants and decided, hey, we're going to start catering. So they have a multi-million-dollar catering business. There's another organization in a high school, they have a floral class. So they started providing centerpieces for galas. So the list goes on. We just have to be creative.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed hearing about those. I really did. And I know there's got to be so many more, but
Yeah.
I thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, in many respects, when you're talking about organizations kind of becoming and thinking like social enterprises and really thinking about what they have already and perhaps how they can harvest that, are there other ways or something else we should be thinking about as we try to develop these consistent alternative revenue streams? And let me load this up with for you as well. Should we also start to consider closing the organization down? I mean, we talk about funding, and funding is fun and everything, but it's tough. It's a tough environment. And I'm trying to get to this question and trying to deep root this answer in terms of, well, if I looked at everything, is shutting the doors the most feasible? So however you want to take that or wherever you want to start, just love your thoughts on that.
Well, again, I am a true optimist, and my first response would be not to close it down.
Okay.
My first response would be to use every opportunity to evaluate using the best technology that we have to evaluate, use consultants and specialists to evaluate your organization, short-term and long-term, and try to explore opportunities on paper and in actuality to see what do we need to do to remain in existence. I don't think that we want to shut doors right away because there's so many people in need, and that even creates a greater need when we shut the doors. These people don't have other opportunities, whether it's healthcare, whether it's mental illness, whether it's childcare, whether it's, the list goes on. People are in great need in our country, and the need is getting greater. So if nonprofits close the doors, what are we going to do? So I think that the thing that jumps at me, and I think about it all the time in almost every area of my life, is collaboration. Collaboration. Whenever you do anything, you're better and stronger together. Collaboration. There are so many organizations, like in San Diego, there's about 13, what's the number now? I'm not going to make it up. So there's a lot of nonprofits in San Diego, and a lot of them have a similar mission. And they're understaffed. They're going after the same dollars. They have the same donors. They have the same major donors. Collaborate. Put your expertise together. And that makes you stronger. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 organizations coming together. So that's my first instinct, is to not shut the doors, but to collaborate.
I love it. Love the big C word, collaborate. Love it.
I think we've
Thank
heard
you.
a lot of that this month with regards to just some strategies. Love that too. I think the other word that stood out, and you mentioned it a couple of times, maybe we can have you say just a little bit about it, and that's the friend raising. Could you say a little bit more about friend raising?
Oh, I mentioned that, didn't I? So friend raising is the softer approach to fundraising. And it's really a prerequisite to fundraising, because once you have a friend, then you've got a donor, and people donate to people, believe it or not. Just like in sales, people sell and buy from people that they like. If you change organizations, I know people have changed organizations 3 times, and they're my connection. So I follow them to these other organizations. So people donate to people. So friend raising is a softer approach. For example, in one of the organizations, we invite people, I was mentioning Goodwill, we invite people to our gala or our annual luncheon, and we don't charge them. We don't have the board members buy a table. You just come and you hear from you hear from a group of the participants. You hear about the mission. You hear very specifically about the impact. There's an opportunity for true enhanced engagement with donors and potential donors without the stress of, am I going to have to raise my paddle for the auction and give you $10,000 tonight? So that's friend raising. That's what we've been using as a strategy.
I absolutely love that. We're going to take another break, but when we come back, we're going to ask you to share if an organization if we're looking to engage a fund developer, what might we look for? Just your thoughts on that. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. I am Dr. Cheryl White. I'm your lead host for today's episode. And with me are my co-hosts, Dr. Loretta Howard and Dr. Andre Howard. Glad to have both of you with us. And then we also have Dr. Wendy McKinney. We're going to make you a doctor
Yes.
today as well. And Dr. Wendy is a mission-driven executive, former chief development officer, author of Busy Doing What, as well as a co-pastor. So before we went to break, I was throwing out there just the thought about if an organization is going to engage a fund developer, what should they look for?
And Dr. Cheryl, this is a great question because anybody can say they're a fundraiser and anybody can say they're a great fundraiser, but your track record speaks for you. And the first thing I would say that you look for is experience. Because in fundraising, you gain success from the victories that you experience over the years that you have worked. That comes with unsuccessful years and successful years. So you don't get that unless you've done it for a while, right? The other thing is expertise. Fundraising is not just asking for money, but what are your areas of expertise in terms of fundraising? Are you a relationship builder? Are you a networker? Do you understand social enterprise? Do you understand the power of collaboration? What are your areas of expertise? What's your superpower? The other thing is, how deep is your network? Because your network worth is your network. So how many people do you know in the area that you're fundraising? Like, it's very difficult for someone to leave one region and go to another region and really hit the ground running with fundraiser. Because remember, with fundraising, remember we spoke earlier about people donate to people, and people donate because of people. People donate because of their relationship. So if they don't have a huge and deep network, it might not be the best choice. But if they do, that's definitely a feather in their cap. Likability. You want a developer, a fun developer who's likable, because people don't like to donate to people they don't like. Again, relationships are everything. And strong relationship building skills, period. You can watch someone in a room for about 15 minutes and you can tell who the relationship builders are. It doesn't take long. You can see the fly on the wall in the corner who are the people that don't want to talk to anybody. That's no shade, as the kids say. That's just who you are. But then you see the others who, wow, she's talked to like 18 people. Who is that? Because they're relationship building. Hopefully, they're doing some quality relationship building, and that's typically, those are some of the things that you want to look for in a fund developer, I think.
Wonderful. And it's funny, as you were going through that list, I was thinking about a fund development consultant that we use with our agency. She checks all those boxes. That would be you, Miss Wendy McKinney. so, so that's a good
Did you
thing.
hire somebody else?
No, wonderful. No, that describes you. And as you were sharing, I could say, oh, yeah, I see that in you. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for sharing.
That is great. I mean, good advice for what we need to really look for when we're looking for fund developers. So we may have to hire you too. So I'll just keep that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pocket being the operative word.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay. So thinking about hiring people. So would you think it's better to hire someone internally to help with fund development goals or work with external providers, especially based on the information that you just shared with us? And what do you think are the pros and cons of each?
Well, and that's a great question. And I think in this current environment, you need to be creative. And if you can do both, I would do both, and a hybrid, because as a fundraiser internally, you have the inside knowledge of the organization. You are the line of defense for everything that happens in development, and you communicate to all levels of the organization. That person outside doesn't have that. But what that person outside has is external knowledge for other organizations, other opportunities, other resources that this person on the inside may not even have access to. For example, myself as a nonprofit consultant, I'm at conferences all the time. I'm at workshops all the time. I'm meeting people all the time. I'm sharing advice and getting advice from people all the time. If you're working in an organization, you really don't have that access or that flexibility. So when you merge those two together, you have the perfect storm. You have the inside knowledge and you have the external knowledge and experience, and you join that together, you have a successful development team.
Hey, we're going to say
Great.
shout out also to Ernesta Johnson, because I know you work with
Yes,
her internal. Um,
yes, it's a
your
perfect
director,
storm. I mean, it's
director,
exactly a
and yeah, community affairs. So you guys are a dynamic team. It's awesome.
Great.
Great. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
In similar vein, Dr. Wendy, are there red flags that we should look out for when we talk about hiring this funding professional? And is it unethical to say what you fundraise, you get a percentage of? In other words, I'm going to pay my fundraiser based on how much you bring through the door. So what's some of the ethical or unethical dilemmas around, paying for a fund development person? Because they're not cheap.
that's the first rule against fundraising
Sure.
in the according to the Association of Fundraising Professionals and Certified Fundraising Executives
Okay.
and Ethical Fundraising. You cannot, you will not associate fundraising with a fee. You can't do that. You
Okay.
can recommend, the organization can say, we want to raise $1 million. What is your fee for raising $1 million? Well, the fee is not to raise $1 million. That just happens to be a goal that you set. But this is my fee to be your consultant. And the fee is consistent across organizations. There's a average, sort of a standard of consulting fees per hour. There's work dollars or work project dollars associated per month or per project, but you can never tie the dollar amount because it starts to appear as if you're selling service, or you're exchanging service for fees unethically. So it says, okay, I'm going to go talk to this guy and he's going to pay me a little extra because I'm going to get this dollar amount. It's unethical. So we have to be on an even playing field. And there are red flags because donors oftentimes will offer things to fundraisers. They'll say, hey, you can use my townhome in Hawaii in exchange for XYZ.
Right.
And those are things that fundraisers are taught and trained to avoid. So there are red flags, and that's definitely one.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And the other big red flag, and I know sometimes the experience that fund development professionals have with board as well, right? Because the board has to work well, as well as with the chief in terms of making sure those fund raising goals are met and aspired to.
Absolutely. The first group that you go to whenever you start fundraising is your board. Your board is the most important group, and that's a real important piece that I like to share with organizations that I'm on the board with is they're underutilized. Organizations just do not, across the board, no pun intended, across the board, do not know how to effectively use their board. I have another book coming out called the board, what is it called now? I forgot. The Board Roadshow. And
Okay.
basically the Board Roadshow, and I learned this when I was at the Red Cross, is to show organizations that you need to go to your board members, meet them where they are, go to their offices, go to their organizations, go to the places where they get awards and acknowledge them. So you get to know them personally. And that way you have a friend forever. And their network is huge. But when you just have them come to the board meeting, you go over the board minutes, you have a person give a mission moment, they clap their hands, and they say, can you give us $2,500 for a table? That's all you're going to get. You need to engage in your board by showing interest in them, interest in their lives. And then you're able to ask them for what you need more strategically than just generically. If I know that you love the symphony, but maybe you're a corporate executive at a technology firm, but I know you love the symphony. Then let's talk about your symphony experience. Let's talk about your connection to the symphony. I hear that you're actually on the board of the symphony. So that expands your opportunity for new board members, for new donors, for new donor opportunities, for creativity, for everything. So I like that roadshow approach where you go to your board member and be more aggressive and assertive in getting to know them instead of just telling them about your organization.
Powerful. Love it. Love it. Thank you, Dr. Wendy. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely love that as well. We will be looking forward to the road show. And when are you expecting that book to come to fruition?
That's the board roadshow. That's next year because I'm trying to work on the marriage toolbox. Should be in.
Oh, okay.
I should be finishing that one this year. The marriage toolbox. That's another one about how to keep your marriage together.
All right. Well, we can all use that book as well.
Absolutely.
That is hilarious and great. So I tell you what, this is probably a good time for us to take a break before we move into maybe some final thoughts and other things that you might connect and share with our listening audience, as well as how they might even connect with you. And we're asking all of our guests to share a little bit about their hopes and their thoughts with regards to what brings them joy. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. I am Cheryl White, your lead co-host for today, with my fabulous co-host, Dr. Loretta Howard, and Dr. Dr. Andre Howard. Glad to have you both with us, as well as Dr. Wendy McKinney. We're making her an honorary doctor today.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we were speaking before we went to break about all the just wonderful thoughts and creativity that Wendy has come up with relative to her journey as a chief development officer, and also I think dabbled into thinking about a couple of your books, be it busy doing what, but real interested in seeing what's coming down the pipe as it relates to the road show and engaging your board more. Any, actually, before I ask you any final thoughts, I'm going to step back and ask you the question we've been asking all of our listening audience. And that would be,
What do you hope for? And
yeah.
what brings you joy, Dr. Wendy?
Mm,
As it relates to this industry and this space and fundraising and nonprofits, I mentioned it earlier, and that's really collaboration. I'm big on working together with others, and no one person is the same. We're always bringing something collectively to have a greater outcome. I don't like to say the more the merrier, because you can have too many people involved, but for the right group and the right number of people together, working together, whether it's organizations working together, whether it's by the associations that you're a part of, I think that collaboration is the key. And I think that's the best way that we can work together to overcome some of these unexpected and unknowns for the future of this industry. So that brings me joy, that I know that it's already happening. I've gone to a couple of conferences where these types of organizations or groups are being put together, and people are doing them on a personal level and some on a professional level. So people understand the power of collaboration, even though there has been resistance, like we talked about. There's been resistance and competition, but it's collaboration, not competition, that's really going to help pull us through.
mm. I
Gotcha.
want to just say, one of the things that comes to mind as you're sharing that is maybe 15 years or so ago, I don't remember, you had a women's event that you asked me to speak at, and your topic was around women helping women.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. And as you
Yes.
prepared for
Wow.
that,
Remember.
yeah. And so as you speak of collaboration, it really makes me think of that. And one of the things Dr. Dre and you and I have done throughout the years kind of came from just my deep thinking and study and preparing for that particular a luncheon that Wendy had sponsored on iron sharpens iron and women working together. And that is, people learn and grow from interaction with each other.
Mm.
And I say that all the time, but it's funny, that whole message really became cemented in my heart and mind as I prepared for that wonderful event that you put together and sponsored. So interesting.
That's so beautiful. I can't believe you remember. I forgot about that, but
Yeah, interesting to
it's
hear you
time for
say
another one.
that because it definitely planted a lot of seeds, and that was one that stuck for me. Was that iron sharpens iron, translated into people learning growth from interaction with each other. So
Yes. Yes.
fabulous, fabulous. So, final thought. Do you have a final thought? Then I'm going to ask yourselves, Dr. Dre and Dr. Loretta, if you have a final thought you'd like to share with the audience.
Is that on me first?
Started
Oh,
with
so
Dr.
sorry.
Started with Wendy.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. I'm
okay.
sorry. I did want to add the technology piece in terms of fundraising. And that's a great piece that we don't want to forget about. Before I talk about that, just quickly, when we talk about collaboration, also with organizations, organizations will share revenue with you. If you put your name on their product or they put their name on your product, so there's revenue sharing opportunities, and organizations love to be connected with CSR, with social responsibility. So they're looking for opportunities to do that. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. And the other thing was, what was the other thing? I think I mentioned certification. I was just looking at my Dr. Bronner's spray. I think Cheryl, you used,
Love, yes.
and there are organizations like this, they're international organization who will combine with your organization and help you with your fundraising efforts. So when we talk about collaboration, I'm not just talking about the homeless organization that prevents homelessness and provides feeding, but even international organizations that want to help other organizations. So I think that's very important. But I wanted to talk about AI, and I know there's controversy around it and things like that, but I am a card carrying chat GPT lover. I don't know about y'all, but I am. And if you're not, I hate to say this, but you're going to be left behind. You're going to be left behind. Yes, you need to be careful. Yes, there needs to be some codes of ethics. Yes, you have to be careful about the information that you put in. You need to buy a subscription instead of doing the free one because your information is out there, just to give you a tip. But in fundraising, AI is key. And there's an organization, I went to the international conference for an Association of Fundraising Professionals just this April in Seattle. And there are over 3,000 people there. And there are probably about 20 vendors that provide information on fundraising. So there are organizations, there are databases with foundations, thousands and thousands of foundations with millions and millions of dollars available. You need to buy a subscription. You need to just invest in that, because otherwise, while you're waiting or Googling, you're not going to get access to those funding offers. And there's an organization, and I don't mind shouting them out, because if you tell them I said that mention their name, you get a discount. But anyway, there's an organization, a platform called Instrumental, and it's not AL at the end, it's just L, no A in there. It's Instrumental, and they are a database. They provide the unlimited, I mean, it's just crazy amount of funding opportunities and foundations that you get. I get an indicator or notification every single day for the organizations that I represent on a funding opportunity. But this is the kicker. Not only do they give you information, but they help you write the grant. Costs a little more because it's subscription levels, but they gather your information. So how you have your standard narrative, your standard impact statistics, your surveys, your outcomes that you want to showcase. So they gather all this information for you. And even if you can't put it all in at once, they take all your grant proposal that you write with them, you put them in their system, and they will send you an opportunity. They will tie it into what you've sent, and they will write it for you and submit it for you before the deadline. That's where we are today. And they just came out, they just showcased in April, and they have competitors, but they're one of the leading. They have, I think, over 5,000 clients right now. So, if everybody's going after some of the same funding opportunities, you're going to have to, be a leader in the space. You're going to have to be competitive. So just wanted to share that AI. And if you can't afford, because they're small organizations, if you can't afford a subscription, use AI. I mean, if you can't afford a subscription with Instrumental, because it is the hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars per month to subscribe to some of these. But if you can get a $25 chat GPT or what's the other guy, Claude, and these, I would encourage you to invest in that, because the information, you do need to check the information and verify it, but it is priceless, and it helps you write these grants and these funding proposals in seconds instead of weeks.
Wow, thank you. Dr. Loretta, looks like we're going to have you ask one of our final questions.
Okay, I'm just taking so many notes as I'm listening to you, notes all over. But one of the things, if our listeners would like to connect with you to learn more about fund development or your offerings or your books, how can they contact you?
Wendy McKinney on LinkedIn. That's a good start.
Okay.
My website is Wendy L as in Lynn, McKinney.com. And you can email me. I check my emails like every hour on the hour. WMcKinney 7@gmail. W McKinney 7@gmail.
Thank you so much. You'll be
Hey.
hearing from me.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to it.
And we are wrapping up in about 60 seconds, but is there a final thought, Dr. Loretta or Dr. Dre, that you wanted to just shout in there?
I mean, Wendy's been so powerful in offering what she has really stated. And again, just kudos to Wendy. She's ahead of the curve when it comes to thinking about this whole theme has been this month has been keeping the doors open, and so this brings another layer to that and really allows me to be even hopeful in terms of keeping the doors open but thriving and surviving and making it happen. And I think the big lesson for me is it's not really all about the money. Sometimes it's the best fundraisers don't focus on the money. They focus on their mission, they focus on movement, they focus on creating change, they focus on solving problems. The money just becomes the tool, right? Not the goal. And I think that's the big lesson that Dr. Wendy has kind of taught me this past hour that we spent together. So thank you again, Dr. Wendy, for your insight.
Thank you. And a quick thought from yourself, Dr. Loretta. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, Dr. Wendy, this has just been so enjoyable, and you gave us so many knowledge nuggets is what I want to call them. But I've learned so much, the fee for services, the collaborating, the friend raising, all of those, and I have just really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to us seeing you again and having you on as a guest.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Wendy. We just enjoyed having you on. And thank you always to my co-host for being with me today and to our audience for tuning in. Please join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. on YouTube or download us, our podcast. We drop new shows every Thursday. So find us on Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or Spotify. And until next time, keep on keeping on for the greater, informing leaders, inspiring solutions.